Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Penn Foster College Business Orientation webinar. My name is Bob Messina, and I will be your host for today's presentation. First up on the screen, you're going to see the topics that we're going to cover. Give you a little idea of what you can expect out of the webinar. The main purpose of today's webinar is to help you become more familiar with our school, our policies and procedures. As you can see on your screen, about halfway through the presentation, we're going to take a short 2-minute break. The way this works is you don't need a microphone. You can ask any questions you like by entering in the question box. I monitor that during the presentation. If it's something I think is appropriate to address at the point you ask, I'll go ahead and answer your question. Otherwise, we'll have 2 Q&A sessions, one about halfway through and then one at the end of the session as well. So please don't hesitate to ask your questions. A couple other things, a couple administrative items to get out of the way first. Like I said, you don't need a microphone. We communicate via the question box. This webinar usually takes about 2 hours, give or take, depending on how many questions that are asked. This webinar is optional, so you will not get a grade for it because it's not required. However, I think if you are here, you will get a great deal out of the webinar. We're going to take you a lot of different places, like show you a simulated student record and show you how to navigate the portal. We're also going to take you into the student community, the library, the bookstore, the Smart Thinking tutoring service that's available, as well as the student handbook. So there's a lot of information that's going to be presented today. So mainly you want to listen, try to grasp the ideas and get a little understanding what we expect from you. Also, you can find out where to find things. Mainly it's an informational webinar. Okay, but again, don't hesitate to ask your questions at any point. Also, if anybody wants a copy of the PowerPoint slides that I'm going to use for the presentation, I will give you my email address later on. You can send me an email. I'll be glad to send the slides along to you. Okay, so that's a little bit about how this is going to work. Okay, so first off, before we start getting into the meat and potatoes of the webinar, first thing I want to do is put up a picture of the business studies group, of which I'm a part of. And I always think it's nice to put a face with a voice. And this would be me here in the upper left-hand corner, along with Eric, Jim, and Russell. We just had a change in our area this week, as a matter of fact. Michelle's our new instructor that we welcome this week because Tanya retired on this past Tuesday. So she was here for 26 years. So it's the first change in our department in 16 years, which is a rather long time that we've been together. So we're going to miss Tanya, but we also like to welcome Michelle. She's so new, I don't have a picture of her yet, but we will put that up shortly as soon as we get one. All right, a little bit about my background. I graduated from the University of Dayton with a bachelor's degree in accounting. I had a minor in management. Upon graduating, my first job was as an internal auditor. I did that for a number of years. Then I became a district controller and eventually a regional controller. So I have 20 years real-world experience. I joined Penn Foster in 2000, so I'm here 16 years. So together we have over 80-plus years experience, which means that if you have any questions at any point, don't hesitate to call on us. We've pretty much seen everything, although there's always times when students challenge us with new situations. So, but what that means for you is we have a rather vast array of experience for you to be able to call on. So don't hesitate at any point should you need assistance. Okay, moving forward. So first thing I want to do is take you into the simulated student record that we have set up for today's presentation. And we want to show you around, this is what we call the student portal. Some of you, we've just transitioned to this portal about a month ago. Some of you may still, because not everybody has the new portal, but I would say probably 85% of the students do, so that's why I'm using this. Some of you may still be on the other portal. Everything, all the information is still here. It's just on a different platform. It's presented differently. So that's all that means. So if you just enroll, if you enrolled and you're on the other portal, when you complete your semester and you enroll into the second semester, then you'll be switched over to this portal. Okay, so that's why I'm using this. So for most of you, this should look familiar. So we're going to be coming in and out of here back and forth during the webinar. So a couple things I want to point out. First of all, up in the upper right-hand corner here, where the icon that looks like a bell, I'm going to click on that with the number 2 on it, and that gives us access to our message center. And as you can see here, there's a few messages in here. One is about how do I contact an instructor, how to find answers, and getting some feedback. I just set this up about a month ago. This is what we call a dummy account, but it's just for presentation purposes. So you cannot delete these messages. They will drop off. And it says that this one will expire May 20th. So as of May 20th, that'll go away. So you can't delete them. But I would highly suggest that you read them, because usually when we send something out, it's usually has some importance to it. All right, to access our study guides and some of our lessons, you need to have Adobe Acrobat Reader on your computer. Most new computers have that already, but if you don't, this is the way. You need to click on this link and follow the instructions. It's free. You need to download that though, so that you be able to read the study units. Okay. All right. Next up, the icon to the right of that, it looks like a person. We click on that. Then I'm going to click on Account Preferences. But you can also log out of your portal account here by clicking on that and clicking on the logout link. So I'm going to click on Account Preferences. And as you can see here, there's 4 different tabs. We have the Settings, Billing, Text Alerts, and your Goals tab. First of all, the Settings tab, should you need to change any of this information, like your email, username, password, mailing address, phone number, or security questions, you can do so easily by clicking on the pencil icon and making the change. Okay, so you have that ability to do that whenever you'd like. By the way, our toll-free number here within the U.S., it's toll-free within the United States, is 888-427-1000. Okay, I'll give that out again later on, but just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. Okay, the billing information, if you want access to your payments, where you're at with that. Since this is, like I said, a presentation record, this shows that it was paid off in full. But if you're on a payment plan, that information will show here. Text alerts, if you want to get a text alert sent to your smartphone or tablet or whatever kind of device you have, you can enter the number in here, and anytime we put a message in the message center, you'll get a text alert about that. And then the My Goals tab, you can set your goals here. You're in control of this when you would like to graduate, and that gives you an idea, where you are as far as meeting your goals. Okay, so that was all under the account preferences. So we were on our home tab when we first signed in. Other features on this tab. Now some of these tabs, they're redundant information, but the home tab, you can reach a lot of different information from just this one tab. You have your course overview, your program goal, which we just looked at, how to set that. And this little graph here, the little bar graph going across, will show you your progress regarding that. You can take a look at your upcoming courses in the semester, your exam status, how many exams you've completed, what the next one is, your billing information, like we just looked at on the other screen, but this is another place you can view that. And then finally, students in your program. You can, basically what this is, this links you to our student community. So if you're interested, and I would highly suggest that you join our community, because I'm going to take you in there later on and you'll see all the benefits that you can derive from being in the community. Okay, so the way you do that is obviously click on the join the conversation link there. All right, so this is just kind of a little overview page. It's under the home tab. Okay, but we also have programs and courses, the grades tab, billing and payments, help and support feature, and resource tab. So while I'm here, I'm going to come back in here later on, go over the program and courses tab and the other resources. But for right now, I just want to quickly touch on the grades tab. It'll show you all of the grades that you've achieved so far in your program. You'll see all the lessons here that you have to complete for the semester. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a listing of all your grades all in one shot. Under the billing and payments, again, this would give you access to your billing information, how many payments you've had, when your payments due, how many payments you have left, that kind of thing. Okay, so again, we'll come back in here later on and take a look at some of the other information. While I'm here, I want to go back down under, I want to go in under help and support. Take a quick look. This is one way that you can get help. A lot of this is geared towards self-help. So maybe you have a question, for example, about your exams. All right, so you can type that in there and hit search, or you can go down under the support topics, and we have one obviously on exams. So you can click on that, and you can view all the frequently asked questions about exams. So there's a lot of library developed over the years of the frequently asked questions that we get a lot from a lot of the students. And again, whether it's accreditation, our bookstore, cancellation policies, discussion boards, you know, they're all listed here. So it's a great place to go to get your questions answered. Now, if you don't see your question answered here, then you can access our email system by typing in, do a search. So maybe you want to say instructor. Okay, you hit that, type in whatever you're looking for, and then click the search button. And then once you do that, now you'll see what's added to the bar is the ask a question option and also the chat feature. Okay, so the chat feature only works for student services. Student services are the folks that help you out with everything non-academic. Like they won't help you out with your lessons, but they'll help you out with like your shipments, payments, if you need to change your information in any way, those type of administrative things. Okay, so you can talk to them via a chat. You cannot chat with an instructor. You would have to call the toll-free number to speak with us. Okay, but you can access the email system by clicking on the Ask a Question button. So you can type in your subject, what your question is, and then you need to determine where your email is going. If it's under for general support, maybe you have a question about your billing. Well, that would go to general support. If it's a question about your lessons that you want to send to an instructor, that would be under instructional support. It's a question about your billing, for example, that would be under financial support. And then once you, depending on which department, say you send it to an instructor, then there is a subcategory, whether it's an exam or whatever. Try to do your best. That gets it routed to the right department and to the right area. but we're not so much worried about the sub-menu if you're not quite sure where it should go. The first one, the main area, is what's most important here. And once you've done that, then click continue, and that'll send your email to us. And normally you should expect, if it's during a weekday between Monday and Friday, you should expect a response within 24 hours. If you send anything after 6 p.m. Friday evening Eastern Time, you most probably won't get a response till Monday, because we're not here on the weekends. Okay, some instructors do check email over the weekend, so it's possible that you could, but most likely you won't get a response till Monday. Okay, so that's how you can access our email system. All right, so let's go down under resources. And here you have several different videos that I would suggest you take a look at when you get a chance. There's a welcome video. There's one on how to, and most of these are pretty short and sweet, 3 to 4 minutes. How to navigate your portal, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. Managing your learning, how to take exams, using the document e-reader, and how to get help, and connecting with students and faculty. So you notice they're all like 3-4 minutes, short and sweet. So if you not familiar with that or want a refresher, you can check those out. All right, now under other resources, later on today I'll bring you back here and we'll talk about the library, the community, and our career services site. But for right now, I want to access the student handbook and forms. So we click on that. Before I get into the handbook, I want to talk about a couple forms you're going to need to be familiar with. First one is the proof of high school. And this needs to be completed by the end of your third course. For most of you, that's going to be the Introduction to Business. So it's a simple process. You just need to download this form, fill it out, and send it back one of the 3 ways listed at the bottom of the form. Okay, you put your name, your ID number. If you got your high school diploma, traditional way, brick and mortar school, check the line and fill out that info. If you got your GED, check that line and the date of that and your name as it appears on either one. Sign it and date it, and then you can either mail it, fax it, or email it. So we made it pretty easy to get it back to us. These are 3 different ways to do that. My suggestion would be to get this out of the way as soon as you can. So otherwise you may be held up. If you forget about it and don't do it, you're going to get locked out. You won't have access to your materials until this is satisfied. So any questions regarding proof of high school should be directed to Student Care, Student Services. Student Care and Student Services, same, they're synonymous terms. They mean the same area. Okay, so if you hear either one, it means the same area. So that's proof of high school. Once you've done some lessons and finished some courses, then you'll be able to request an official transcript. You click on that link and follow the instructions on how to do that. The privacy release form is here for those of you that need third-party access to your information, whether it's a spouse, parent, guardian, whatever the situation may be. In order for us to even talk to them or to release any information to them, we need to have this on file. So if you think you may be in that situation at some future point, then I would suggest doing the same thing. Download the form, fill it out, and send it back. The shipping waiver is here for those of you that want to have access to all your study materials at one time, which means all your textbook gets mailed to you at once. The only way for that to happen is your program must be paid in full. So if you pay your semester off in full, then you can have all your shipments sent at one time. Okay, but you need to sign the waiver first. And then lastly, you can check out our accreditations here at the bottom. All right, so let's go back up and take a look at the student handbook. Now this is set up by the date of your enrollment. All right, so I'm assuming for today's presentation, everybody's enrolled on or after September 18th of last year. So I'm going to click on the link for that. Now, this is provided for you digitally. You will not, and I repeat, will not get a physical copy sent in the mail. Okay, this is the way it's provided. So you are expected to access it, read it, and understand it, because this is where all the policies and procedures that govern your enrollment are contained. All right, so I'm going to cover some of the more priority items here, but we don't have time to go through the whole thing. So I highly and strongly recommend that you take time to go through this to read it and understand it. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call the school. We'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. All right, so first thing, we have a little message from Connie Dempsey, who's our Chief Certification and Licensing Officer. A little welcoming and a little history of our school. For some of you that signed in earlier, prior to the presentation, we just celebrated our 125th anniversary last year because we were founded in 1890, which, by the way, only 1% of the companies in the U.S. can make that statement, that they've been in business at least 125 years. So we're very proud of that. Needless to say, we've gone through a lot of transition in those 125 years. The original name of our school was International Correspondence Schools, or ICS for short. The person that pioneered our school was Thomas Foster, and part of our school name comes from his last name, and he was a local newspaper editor in the area. He found that the local coal miners were having issues, safety issues in the mines, and he developed a correspondence method of education to help those folks out. So he's the one that came up with it and started our school, basically. Right now, we're made up of what we call 3 different academies: our high school, our career school, and our college. Together, in all 3, we have over 150,000 students currently enrolled. In our high school alone, we have over 50,000 students. And just last year, we graduated more than 25,000 students from our high school program, which, by the way, makes us the largest high school in the U.S. Okay, so we have a rather vast and diverse history. So we put together a little 2-minute montage video of the last 125 years. So if you didn't get to see it prior to the webinar, I'm going to play it during break so you'll get a chance to see it if you'd like. Okay, moving forward. So we're going to skip down a few pages. Some of the topics I'm going to skip over because we have some slides that we're going to cover the material in more detail. First up, I want to talk about the minimum QPA requirements that you need to maintain throughout your degree programs. First up, this is based on a 4.0 scale. And for those of you unfamiliar with the 4.0 scale, an A is worth 4 points, a B is 3, and a C is 2. We no longer have D's. F's are 0, which means if you pass a course, you're going to pass with a minimum grade of a C or higher. Okay? So based on this 4.0 scale, for the associate's program, at the end of semester 1, you must have at least a 1.6 cumulative QPA in order to be allowed into the second semester. At the end of semester 2, that goes up to 1.8, again cumulative, so that would include semesters 1 and 2. At the end of semester 3 and 4, in order to earn your associate's degree, you must have at least a 2.0, which is a C average, in order to earn your associate's degree. For those of you in the bachelor's program, it's very similar. You have to have a 1.6 from semesters 1 through 5. At the end of semester 6, that goes up to 1.8, and for semester 7 and 8 to earn your bachelor's degree, it must be a 2.0 as well. Okay, moving forward, next item, transfer credit. We're going to skip this for right now because this is one of those areas we're going to cover on a separate slide in a few minutes. Next up are challenge exams. In 2 of our courses, you can take a challenge exam, and if you earn a passing grade, which for both of them is a 75% or higher, that means you will get transfer credit and you will not have to take the courses. And those 2 courses are English composition and computer applications. You cannot challenge either one or both of those courses until you get to the semester they're located in. So for example, if computer apps is not until the 2nd semester, you can't take the challenge exam for that until you get to that 2nd semester. Okay, next up, I want to talk about the integrity issues. And this begins on page 16. Now, if you read anything in the handbook, I would strongly recommend you read this section and become very familiar with it. It covers our student code of conduct, academic dishonesty, plagiarism, collaboration, your online behavior, and possible disciplinary actions that can occur should those policies be violated. We're going to cover that in a lot of detail on a separate slide here in a couple minutes. All right, next up is our grading scale, and we just passed our 4-year anniversary on the grading scale that is currently in place. To get an A in a course, you must have between a 90 and 100% average. A B is 80 to 89. A C is 70 to 79. Anything less than 70 is failing. Okay, so question you might have is, what happens if I fail a course? Well, then you would have 2 options. You can take what is called a replacement course, which basically you keep the same textbook for the course, but you'll be sent a new set of exams. Basically, you're repeating the course with us. The other option would be take a similar course, maybe in a local college in your area or an online school that would have to be approved by us ahead of time, and you would need to earn a grade of C or higher and then transfer the grade into us. So those are your courses of action should you fail a course. Other grades that you might see, an I means the course is incomplete, which means you have not met all the requirements for that particular subject. Also, some assignments are graded pass-fail. So you'll see P grades for like webinars and discussion boards. And I'll discuss the grading of those later on when we talk more in depth about those 2 subjects. Okay, moving further along here. Next item we're going to talk about is proctored exams. So let's scroll down to the next page. This is another area where we're going to skip for right now because we're going to go into it in a lot more detail on a separate slide later on today. All right, webinars, same thing. We're going to talk about webinars in more detail. For right now, next subject is Dean's Lists. To be on our Dean's List, so most of you may have had an honor roll in high school, so a Dean's List is kind of like that. To be on our Dean's List, you must accomplish 3 things. You have to have at least 9 credits worth of work. You need to achieve a 3.4 or higher grade point average on those credits, and you must provide us written permission to publish your name. So if you achieve those 3 items, then you can be on the Dean's List. We put a new Dean's List out every quarter, or every 3 months a new one comes out. So depending on when you finish up your semester will determine what Dean's List that you could be eligible for. The registrar department are the folks that manage that. So if you have any questions about the Dean's List, contact the registrar and they can help you out. Okay, next up is we're going to skip down a few pages and we're going to go to the graduation honors that you can achieve. And this is for our degree programs only. All right, so if you finish up your associate's or bachelor's degree with your cumulative average for either the 4 or the 8 semesters, and that cumulative average is between a 3.4 and a 3.6, Your degree will come with cum laude designation on it. It will be printed right on your degree. And cum laude means that you graduated with honors. If it's between 3.6 and 3.8, it's designated magna cum laude, and that means more honors. If it's 3.8 or higher, it's summa cum laude, and that means most honors. So if you're able to achieve those kind of grades, you will get the distinction that comes with it. And that, again, that's printed right on your degree. Alright, now we're going to skip down and I want to show you what a semester outline looks like. We're going to take a look at the associate's degree for accounting. Most of the associate's degree are pretty similar, especially in the first semester. But by the way, all the degrees are listed here, so you can see all the semesters in the handbook. So you can tell what courses are in each semester. First semester is pretty similar for everybody. You're going to have business orientation for 1 credit, information literacy for 1, intro to business for 3, and the art course for 3, along with the math for business course for 3. This is where you're going to see some differentiation. For the most part, you're going to get the beginning course in whatever your major is. So since this is accounting, accounting majors are going to get financial accounting here. If you're a management major, you will get principles of management here. Human resource, you get the beginning human resource course, and so forth. Total credits in the first semester are 14. By the way, whenever you're done a semester, you will get a new enrollment agreement for the subsequent semester. Okay, so once you're done the first semester, you'll get a new enrollment agreement for semester 2. At that point in time, if there are any electives in that semester, that's when you want to make the choice. So you'll see here in semester 2, there is an art and humanities elective. You get to choose either music or literature. And whichever one you choose is worth 3 credits. All right, so total credits in the second semester, 18. So you'll see that's different than the first semester, which was 14. Okay. Okay. You'll see semester 3 here, and I believe it continues on at the top of the next page, which it does. You'll see there's an elective there as well, and then semester 4 also has an elective. And you'll see the total credits that you need to earn your associate's degree for accounting. Okay, by the way, one thing I want to mention is if we have any technical issues, once in a while maybe the internet might go down or we have a connectivity issue. Normally I get a little heads up a couple seconds ahead. It lets me know. And if that happens where I lose audio or something like that, just hang in there. Usually it's a quick fix. Takes like less than a minute to fix that. So if that does occur, just hang in there. Hopefully it won't, but if it does, don't log off. Just stay on there, and I'll get the webinar back up as soon as possible. All right, one last thing I want to show you in the handbook. And at the very back of the handbook, I believe it starts on page 73 or so, we have individual course descriptions for every one of our courses. This is good for when you're deciding what electives to choose. Okay, because the course description gives you the course number, name, how many credits, and what's covered, and whether or not there's any prerequisites to take the course. So you can see for financial accounting is worth 3 credits, ACC 111, what's covered, no prerequisites to take the course. If you take a look at managerial accounting, ACC 112, also 3 credits, what's covered here, notice there is a prerequisite. You cannot take managerial accounting before you have successfully completed financial accounting first. Why is that? Because what you're taught here builds on what you're taught here. So if you don't know the concepts taught here, you're going to be lost here, okay, in managerial accounting. So that's why there's prerequisites for some courses. Okay. So that's everything I wanted to show you in the handbook. So let me see if we can change the drawing. And we're going to head back to the PowerPoint. All right, so we were just in the handbook and saw what that was all about. Now, we saw what the semesters look like. Let's talk about some time constraints that you're under here. All right, and there are two of them. You have an individual semester time limit and an overall program time limit. All right, so for every semester that you enroll in, you have 12 months to complete it. It does not matter how many credits are in the semester. So like we just looked at, the accounting course program. First semester had 14, others had 18. Some may have 15, 16, or 17. So it doesn't matter how many credits there are. You have 1 year to finish from the day that you enroll in that semester. Okay, so what happens if you're unable to finish within the 12 months? Then you can request up to 2 paid 6-month extensions per semester. And by the way, there is a $95 fee for each extension, okay, if you need that. Your overall program must be completed within 6 years for the associate's candidates, 8 years for the bachelor candidates. So basically what this means is associate's degree candidates, you have 6 years to complete 4 semesters. Bachelors, you have 8 years to complete 8 semesters. So the next question might be, what happens if I can't finish in the 6 or 8 years? All right, so say you're in the associate's degree and you finish 3 of the 4 semesters in the 6 years. So your 6 years are up, but you only finished 3 semesters. What you would do at that point is re-enroll into the current program. So say you're in the Associates for Business Management. You've done 3 semesters in 6 years. You re-enroll into the Associates in Business Management. You get transfer credit for all the courses you successfully completed. Basically, you pick up where you left off. You are subject, however, to any courses that have been added to your program since you first enrolled. Okay, so if something's been added after you already enrolled the first time, then you will be subject to taking that new course. Okay. All right. So those are your time constraints. Individual semester time limit, overall program time limit. One of the great features of our program, we have no minimum times. So that means that as fast as you can get done a semester, that means you can enroll into the next semester right away. You don't have to wait. It's not like a traditional brick and mortar college where you're in the spring semester, okay, we're done now, then you have to wait a month or 2 for the summer or the fall to pick up, okay? You can enroll into the next semester right away. You don't have to wait. Now, some of you may ask the question, well, what happens if I'm not done paying for the semester at that point? Well, what will happen is any monies that are still owed on that semester will get rolled over to your subsequent semester, okay? So you don't have to stop to wait to get your payments caught up with your academic progress. Okay, so that's a great feature of our program. All right, next up, transfer credit. Here, first thing I want to emphasize, we do need an official transcript from the other school. So my suggestion is, if you think you have any transfer or you're eligible for any transfer credit, contact the other school and request a transcript be sent to Penn Foster. So where does this transcript get sent? And it's to this address. And I will give this out again before I sign off. It's 925 Oak Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18515. So again, you want to contact the other school where you had took courses, request a transcript be sent to Penn Foster, and that's the address that you want to give them to send it to. The transcript must come directly from the other institution, the other school. It does not go to you and then us. It must come directly from the other school. If it does not come in a school envelope, it's null and void. You just wasted your time. Okay, it must come directly from the other school. Okay, so that's where you're sending it. 925 Oak Street, Scranton, PA 18515. Okay, back to the first slide. Oh, we advanced the wrong way. Hang on, let me go back. Okay, so we do need an official transcript. So what do we look for in that transcript? First of all, the registrar department, once again, they handle the dean's list, but they also review transcripts. The first thing we look for is a grade of C or higher in the course that you took and you're trying to get transfer credit for. So it has to be a C or higher. C minus does not count. So it has to be a C or C plus or higher. All right. Also, the credit value has to be the same or higher than our course. So if ours is 3 credits, the other course you took must be 3 or more credits. Also, it has to match up. So if you're trying to get like a credit for a core business course, say it's Introduction to Business, it has to be a similar Introductory to Business course. You can't get credit for Intro to Business with like a literature course, for example. You may be eligible to get some Gen Ed credit for that, but for any core business course, it has to be a similar course. Also, some technology courses, like any computer courses, have to be within the last 5 years. Because the information changes so rapidly, it has to be recent. So a computer course you took in the 90s won't count. You won't get credit for that. Okay. One other thing here, in order to maximize your credit that you have coming to you, try to get your transcripts in as soon as you possibly can, because any course that's already been shipped out will not qualify for transfer credit. So get your transcripts in as soon as you can, especially if you think you might have transfer credit in the first semester, especially one of the first courses in the first semester. All right, next up is our additional information about transfer credit. We are a member of ACE, which stands for the American Council on Education. And those folks come in every 3 years to evaluate our courses. They check it for content, currency, do they meet the requirements for a college course. So they come in. They're a third-party recommendation service. They're a college credit recommendation service. They come in and evaluate our courses against their standards. And why that's important to you is because they put out a manual every year, the ACE manual, which most schools use when they're evaluating transcripts from other schools. Basically, ACE puts everybody on the same plane. They apply the same standards to everybody. So some schools are better than others when it comes to that. All of our courses are ACE approved. So if you're trying to get our credits transferred to another school, if you have any issues or difficulties doing that, let them know that we're a member of ACE. All our courses are listed in the ACE guidelines. Okay, so that should help you out in that regard. You need to keep in mind, however, each school has their own policies regarding transfer credit. So you're bound by whatever they may be. Also, we do accept non-traditional education experience such as military service. So if you've served in the military, you can send in your transcripts for possible credit as well. All right. Just a quick heads up here. In about 5 minutes, we're going to take our short 2-minute break. So if you have any questions for anything that we've covered up till now, please type them in the question box and I'll answer them when we come back out of break. Okay. So, I want to talk about academic integrity issues. I showed you where this was covered in the handbook and highly recommend that you read and understand this section. If you read anything in the handbook, that's the section you want to read. Okay. We've adopted a student code of conduct in order to protect the rights of students, faculty, staff, and Penn Foster itself. This code ensures that the student-faculty interactions are characterized by mutual respect and civility. All Penn Foster students are required to abide by the standards and policies established by the school in both your academic work and your personal conduct. And again, consult the handbook for additional information. All right, that being said, I just want to elaborate on this a little bit. As a student at Penn Foster, you should expect a high level of professionalism and decorum from everybody at Penn Foster, not just instructors, anybody you come in contact with, whether it's student care, admissions, the registrar, anybody here at the school. You should expect that, okay? But likewise, we expect that from our students. So some students, and again, not all, and it's usually only a very tiny portion of students, feel that since we're an online school and we're not in each other's physical presence on a regular basis, that gives them the right to act inappropriately. And by that I mean calling the school, screaming, yelling, especially when it comes to a grade on an exam. Now, if you have an issue with a grade on an exam or a particular answer on a test, the way you want to handle that is to contact the school, speak with the instructor. We're always glad to hear from students. Be prepared to provide an argument for your reasoning, why you think your answer deserves credit or more credit than you achieved or received. I'm always willing to look at it from the student's point of view. All of us have been students. A lot of us are still students. And I would say probably everybody is a perpetual student. Okay? So, that being said, present your argument. Make sure you have your facts behind you. And there are some cases where some of the tests, there's some gray area. And depending on what the reasoning is behind your answer, sometimes it deserves credit. Other times it may not. So we may have to agree to disagree. But the way you go about it will go a long way in getting it satisfied to your manner, your way, what you would like to see. So what you don't want to do is call a school, start screaming and yelling, my answer's right, change my grade. It's not the way you want to do that. Have to speak with the instructor, present your case, and ask him or her to take that into consideration when they're looking at it. And there's times when I know myself, I've gone back, reviewed somebody's answer, and I can see the merit to their answer, and I've given credit. So that's not to say that that's going to happen in every situation, but that's how you want to handle that situation. Okay. First up in the integrity issues is plagiarism. And for those of you that may not be aware, although I kind of have a hard time thinking that you do, you haven't had plagiarism defined to you in the past, but it is a form of unethical behavior, and it is defined as dishonestly using another person's ideas or finished work as your own without giving credit for the source. And that's the most important part of that, without giving credit for the source. It's okay to use somebody else's ideas or work as long as you give them the credit. You're going to talk about and go over this extensively in the second course. Information literacy will cover plagiarism in great detail. So not knowing will not be an excuse. Okay? This includes copying and paraphrasing something and using it as if you'd done the work yourself. Acts of plagiarism not tolerated from students at Penn Foster. Those who submit plagiarized work will be disciplined. Possible measures can include up to expulsion. Okay? This mainly comes into play in our English area, but everything that comes into the school gets checked for plagiarism. So if you're one of those folks that think you're special or privileged and you don't need to abide by the rules, let me just give you fair warning. That's not the case. Okay? So if for whatever reason you decide to shortcut things, think the rules don't apply to you, then just be forewarned that in most cases people that plagiarize get caught. Pretty easy to detect. Main thing here is, and again, it's only to a small portion of the student body that do things like this. Again, you'll suffer the consequences. To me, any of the academic integrity issues are very easy and simple. The best way to avoid them, do your own work. It's just as simple as that. It's pretty much like that in life. You follow the law, you don't break the laws, most times you don't have many problems. All right. One quote that I like to use in this regard is, if you don't have time to do it right, when are you going to have time to do it over? If you submit and plagiarize material, if you're still in school, you will have to do it over. So why not do it right the first time? Myself, I hate to do anything over. Why not do it right? Take some pride in your work. Do it right. That's not only in your academic work, that's in your personal life. All right, next up is collaboration. And this is cheating defined as inappropriate activity in which the work is submitted to the school does not represent the work of the enrolled student. This includes submission of somebody else's work, answers obtained through inappropriate measures, or providing answers to another student. If you're suspected of cheating, you will be notified and required to respond in writing to the charges made. And those charges go before the Academic Standards Committee for a decision on your enrollment. Again, disciplinary action can be applied up to and including termination. By the way, I'm a member of the Academic Standards Committee and have been so for the last 10 plus years. And it's unfortunate that students put themselves in that position. Again, this is for a very small majority of students. Most of our students are great. They do the work and you get the rewards that come with that. But for those, for whatever reason, decide that the rules aren't for them, try to circumvent them, trust me, it's not a good place. You don't want to come before the Academic Standards Committee. It's not a good place to be. Because before a case ever gets to us, it's well vetted against the student. I mean, a very substantial case. So, it's, again, you control your destiny here. You do your own work, you won't have to worry about that. Okay. That brings us to the break point. So, okay, we're back from break. Looks like we have a rather shy bunch today, so nobody's asking me questions. Okay, before I continue, I do want to put up my email address. If went too far here. Let's see if we can go back. There. Okay. If anybody wants a copy of the slides, or if you have any questions, you think of something after the fact, don't hesitate to reach out. My email address is robert.messina@pennfoster.edu. Again, that's robert.messina@pennfoster.edu. And I will put that up again before I sign off today. So if you have to leave at some point in the next hour or so, please feel free to reach out. If you have any comments about the webinar as well, what you liked or didn't like, I'm always looking for feedback on the webinar, so that's how we make it better for students. So don't hesitate to send those comments along as well. Okay, so let's go back to where we left off. Now, the second half of the webinar, we're going to, first half is a little more mundane, going through all the policies, procedures, handbook, all that kind of stuff. Second half, we're going to show you how we calculate your grades, take you into a lot of places like the library, the community, the bookstore, the smart thinking tutoring. So a little more interesting material to work with. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Again, don't hesitate to ask any of your questions. That's what this is all about. Okay, so how do we assess your learning? We do that a number of different ways, mainly through the exam process. We have our what we call randomized multiple choice exams, proctored exams, and final exams. We also have graded projects, discussion boards, and webinars, also known as class participation. Okay, so let's talk about the exams first. So on our next slide that we're going to take a look at after this one, we're going to show you how we calculate your grades. And on that slide, you're going to see that 2/3 of your grade, they're weighted. 2/3 of your grade comes from this first item here, the randomized multiple choice test. The other third of your grade comes from either a proctored exam or a final exam. Okay, so when you see that on the next slide, you'll see that's where these numbers are coming from. So what do we mean by randomized multiple choice exams? Okay, well, these are the exams you take after maybe 2 or 3 chapters in the textbook. Your study guide will tell you, okay, now you're ready to take your exam. All right, so you click on the Take Exam button, and I would say probably about 85% of the time, you're going to see 20 multiple choice questions. The other 15%, you may have as little as 15 questions, or maybe as many as 25 or 30. But the overwhelming majority, about 85%, I would say, are 20 multiple choice questions. All right, so what do we mean by randomized? By that, we mean that there is a pool of questions established for every multiple choice exam. So maybe there's 20 that you see, but there may be a pool as many, in the pool there may be as many as 50 to 100 questions for that particular exam. So what happens is when you click the Take Exam button, the computer randomly grabs 20 questions from the pool and formulates an exam for you. Okay, so that's what we mean by randomized. So it's possible that you and somebody else could be just taking the same test at the same time. They may get 20 different questions. It's still over the same content that was covered, but that's just the randomization process. It's designed to cut down on cheating. Unfortunate as I have to say that, but that's the purpose of it. All right, next up, proctored and final exams. Now we're going to talk about proctored exams in a lot more detail in 2-3 slides down the way. So, but I just want to cover the main 2 distinctions between proctored and final. So most of your courses, you're either going to have a proctored exam, both are final exams. One is either going to be proctored or not proctored, basically. So what a proctored exam, there's 2 differences between the 2. First of all, a proctored exam is taken in somebody else's physical presence. Somebody administers the exam to you. The other difference is the proctored exams are timed. You're under a time constraint. You have 1 hour to finish a proctored exam. And I'll go into the details about that when we get to the proctored exam slide. A final exam is not proctored, and there's no time limit. It's just like the multiple choice test, except you won't see multiple choice questions on these exams. Most of these exams are essay and short answer type questions. And I'll show you in a little while examples of those. All right, graded projects, you'll see these in some courses where you're asked to do maybe some research on a topic, provide some thinking behind, some of these, there's no right or wrong answer. It's designed to get you to do some research, get you more involved, make you do a little independent thinking. So you'll see some of those in some of your courses. Discussion boards, where you go to a board, there's a question asked, and you have to answer the question. And I'll take you and show you what those are like. Also, webinars, also known as class participation, and we'll talk a little bit more about webinars and how they're graded here in a little bit. Okay, so those are all the ways we assess your learning. So let's talk about how we calculate your grades. I'm sure most of you are interested in that. So, in this particular example, this course has 4 of the randomized multiple choice exams, and it has 1 proctor or final. Okay, so on these 4 multiple choice exams, you scored a 94, an 86, an 84, and a 92. We then add those 4 scores. That gives us 356, and we divide by the number of scores, in this case 4, and that gives you an 89 average for those 4 lessons. We then take that 89 average, and this is where the weighting comes in. We multiply it by a 2/3 weight. Decimal equivalent is 0.667. When you do that math, you get a score of 5936. So that's part of your overall score. The other part comes from either your proctor or your final exam grade. Really doesn't matter which one it is. But whatever one we had, we scored a 94 on it. We then take the 94 and multiply it by the other 1/3 of the weight, 0.333. And when we do that math, that gives us 3130 for that exam. We then add those two together, 5936 and 3130, and when we add them together, we get a score of 90.66. In our system, anything that's 0.5 or higher gets rounded up to the next whole number. So in this case, this would have been a 91% as your final average for this course. If this was 0.49 or lower, it would have got rounded down to a 90. All right, in our grading scale, which we saw earlier, 90 to 100 is an A. The letter grade of an A is what will show on your transcript, not the numerical percentage. The letter grade shows. So that's how we calculate your grades. Next up, proctored exams. All right, we're going to go back into the portal in a little while, and I'll show you more information about sample questions and how to access the forms that you're going to need. But let's talk about a proctor. What's a proctor, and what are the requirements for somebody to be your proctor? Okay, first of all, a proctor is somebody that administers an exam to you. It's like your old teacher would have been like in your elementary or high school days. And they hand you the test, they watch you take the test, and there's a time limit. All right. So for Penn Foster, there's 2 requirements for somebody to have to be your proctor. First of all, they cannot, I repeat, not be related to you in any fashion. So that would include no parents, grandparents, sisters, brothers, cousins, aunts, uncles, no in-laws. Okay, it cannot be, no blood relationship, in other words. Cannot be related to you in any manner. The other requirement is they must have at least a minimum of an associate's degree or higher. It could be a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate. So at least a 2-year degree or higher. It does not matter what the degree is in. Okay, it does not have to be business. It could be in biology or engineering or horticulture, whatever. Doesn't matter. So as long as it's a 2-year degree or higher and they're not related to you, they can be your proctor. Okay, so when should you start thinking about getting a proctor? I would say about halfway through your first semester. Or if you know now somebody that fits the bill, I would go ahead. The sooner you can get your proctor approved, the better, because you'll be doing the proctored exam at the end of the semester. So don't wait till you get to you take your last test or assignment to get a proctor, because it does take some time. So it has to be approved before any of these type exams are sent out to you. So there's a process that you go through as far as getting a proctor. Now, who are typical examples of people that proctor exams for Penn Foster students? In a lot of cases, your coworkers, maybe your supervisor or manager, um, could be a neighbor, maybe your doctor, your lawyer, accountant, somebody like that, paralegal, somebody you went to school with, teacher, whatever. Anybody that fits the bill as far as these two requirements. Maybe you just moved to a new area, you don't know a lot of people. What should you do? Typically, we recommend you go to your local library because number one, librarians have their degrees. Also, number two is that they're used to proctoring exams for students. So that's typically what we recommend. Now, for the most part, these exams are paper exams, but there's been a recent change to that where there's another option available, and I'll explain that when we get to the next screen. So, that's the process as far as getting your proctor. If you still, maybe you live in a remote area, you don't know anybody, whatever the situation may be, then contact the school and speak to the proctor department here at the school, and they can give you some suggestions and help on securing a proctor. Okay? All right, so let's talk about the proctored exams themselves. All right, one of the questions we get most often is, are they open book? And the answer to that is yes. You do have access to your textbooks and or your notes. Okay? There are some exceptions to that, like some of the vet tech courses, but for business, I'm not aware of any of those exceptions. Okay? For the most part, you cannot use a computer. There is one exception for that, and I'll cover that on the next screen. So you have access to your books and your notes. Keep in mind that these exams are timed. You're under a time constraint. You have 1 hour. And for the most part, you're going to need the full hour. You're not going to be done in a half hour. I can tell you that right up front. So the typical type of questions you're going to see here are short answer and essay type questions. So when we go back into the portal, I'll show you samples of that. Okay, so how you manage your time in these exams is important. So you are under a time constraint. The way the process works is once your proctor is approved, this is, for the most part, it'll be the last thing you do in every semester is take your proctored exams. So say you have one exam in the first semester that's proctored. So when you're done with everything else, that exam's mailed to your proctor. You arrange for time and date with your proctor to take the exam. On the day of the exam, you need to bring photo ID to prove that you're the person taking the exam. And then once you're ready, they will hand you the test. You have 1 hour to finish. At the end of the hour, the exam's taken back from you, whether you're finished or not. Okay? If there's more than one exam to be taken, then they'll hand you the next exam and so forth. When the last exam is taken, it's given back to the proctor, and the proctor mails back the exam to us. Not you, they do. All right, continuing on with proctored exams. The process is closely monitored. All procedures must be strictly adhered to. Any instances of inappropriate action on part of the student or the proctor could result in an invalid exam. If your exam is invalidated, you'll be required to take an alternate, and the highest grade you can get on that alternate would be 70%. So there's a penalty. You are only mailed the grade results. You do not get the actual exams back. If you wish, you can call in and speak to the instructor, and we'll be glad to go over the exam in detail with you. All right. All that being said, I do want to mention one option that's not so much a future option anymore, although it is in some courses. And this is what we're calling our remote proctoring process. So we're rolling this out in more and more courses. I would say it's only maybe available in 25% of the courses at the moment, but it's rapidly progressing. So what this is your computer has to meet certain requirements for this. It's another option. Instead of taking a paper exam, you'll take the exam over the computer. And your computer must meet certain requirements. Number one, you need to have a webcam. Number two, you need high-speed internet access. Okay, so you can't do this on a smartphone or a tablet. It's got to be either a desktop or laptop. Okay, and I'll show you what the other requirements are. But those are the main two. So what happens is the exam's sent to your computer. As soon as you open it, the clock starts ticking. Somebody watches you through the webcam take the test. I know it may sound creepy for some people, but in this high-tech age, it's another way for us to, for students to take these type of tests. So it's another option that's available. Okay, so that's the remote proctoring process. You're going to see that more and more being, you have a choice. You can do it either paper or the remote for those courses that have that at the moment. But eventually, I'd say by the end of this year, you'll most likely see that available for most, if not all, of our courses. You have that option. Next up, webinars, also known as class participation. So if you hear somebody say class participation, they're referring to a webinar. The main thing I want to get to on this screen, and you'll see in a little bit, all webinars that we post are listed as Eastern Time, which means if you live in a different time zone, you need to adjust for that. Okay, so we'll be coming back to the retake policies, but at this point, I want to go back into the student record and show you some other items. Okay, it looks like I'm on the wrong screen. Here we go. Okay, so the first time we were in here, we were on the home page, and then we also looked at grades, payments, the help and support, and some of the resources. All right, at this point, I want to go into the program and courses page. Right. Figures it logged me out because it wasn't active in the right time. I'm going to sign back in here real quick. Okay. So now we're going to go into the program and courses tab. And this this is set up as the Associates for Business Management, this dummy record that I have set up for this presentation. Okay, now under program materials, there's a welcome letter from the school. The program outline will give you an outline of your whole program. So again, this is an associate's degree. You'll see the first, second, third, and fourth semesters listed here. So what you need to do to earn your associate's degree for business management. So that's under the program outline. There's some great resources here for you to be able to help you succeed along the way. I'm not going to go into those now, but they are listed here so you can access those. This gives you a little course overview. Let's take a look. Let's go in, and it's showing my, let's go back into resume. Math is the last, well, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong thing here. Let me go back. And I don't want to go back into the math. Let's go back, and I want to go into the Intro to Business course. Okay, so the Intro to Business is your third course that you're going to have. You have orientation, then information literacy, then Intro to Business. Okay, you'll see in the Intro to Business course, a couple things I want to point out. The first lesson is actually a webinar. However, my advice here is to skip the webinar at the beginning. The reason for that is I would do some of the lessons first and then come back and do the webinar later. Reason for that That way you're going to have some idea what the instructor's talking about. So my suggestion would, you don't have to do these in order. I mean, I would skip the webinar. If I was taking this course, skip the webinar, start doing everything else, and then at some point later on, come back and do the webinar. All right? So when you're ready to do the webinar, notice there's a Take Exam button here. It is not an exam. If you click that, it's going to bring you back to this page. That's because it's a webinar and not an exam. So where's the schedule for the webinar? It's right up above. It says Webinars for Intro to Business. If you click on the webinar button, it'll give you access to the schedule. Now, they do these on Sunday nights, every Sunday night, and also one Wednesday night, the first Wednesday night of each month. Okay, now there's no webinar this Sunday because it's Mother's Day, so they're taking time off. Actually, the person that does this is a mom, so I can't fault her for that. So anyway, you'll see that there's one set up for May 15th. Again, these are 7 to 9 p.m. Notice it's Eastern Time. All of them will be listed as Eastern Time. So that means you need to adjust accordingly. Now, normally you'll see more than one webinar put up here, but once that one's done, you'll see future ones. If you click on the drop-down arrow, it'll give you access to future ones as well. If you're not sure what time zone or what time to sign in your time zone, if you click on the Show in My Time Zone button, it'll tell you what time to sign in. But then you need to fill out the information here, your name, your email, and your student number, and then click Register. They'll send you an email, save that email, that's your entrance into the webinar. If you sign up for a webinar and then life gets in the way for some reason, something comes up, you can't make it, there is an option to cancel, although you don't have to. You don't need to call us or email us. We understand that life gets in the way sometimes. So if you can cancel it, great. If not, we don't hold that against you. It means you just have to sign up for another webinar in the future and attend that. Okay. So let me talk about the grading of webinars. So how do we determine whether somebody passes a webinar or not? Well, it's interactive. In today's webinar is mainly me discussing things, telling you. But in future webinars, you'll need to respond to questions that the instructor is going to ask you, and you have to participate. Now, the webinar software can detect basically what you're doing on your computer. So if you have another session open doing Facebook or playing solitaire or browsing the internet, the software detects that. And you're given an attentiveness score. So if that score is low, you're not going to get credit for it. Okay, so my advice is to only have the webinar open on your computer. And I would also not recommend using smartphones or tablets to attend webinars because the connectivity isn't always the best. So if you can, use a laptop or desktop. Okay, so that being said, everybody's being good today. Nobody's being unattentive. I'm looking at my scoreboard here that I can see. So at least everybody's on the page. Whether you're listening or not, that's another story. But at least you're where you're supposed to be. Okay? So that's a good thing. And again, you don't get a grade for today's webinar. All right, so that's webinars. Let's talk about discussion boards. This course has discussion boards. So let's take a look at the discussion boards. So if we click on that when we're ready, it tells you that lesson 1, this discussion board is a case study on Polaroid Company. So it gives you a little scenario, and then it gives you 2 articles to access and read. Once you're done now reading those, then you have to answer the 3 questions. So enter the subject, and I would just put like Polaroid here. And then answer the 3 questions. When you're done, click Create Message, and then post your discussion to the board. Now, the first time you come in here, you won't get this. You won't get to the board directly. You will need to create an ID and password in order to access the discussion material. Okay. My advice, do not use your real name because that's going to show on the discussion board. So you don't want to give away your privacy. So make up a nickname, variation of your name, whatever, but don't use your real name. Okay? So also, some boards, this is not one of them, has minimum word, maximum words requirements. If you don't see that anywhere, that means you don't need to worry about it. I know some of the English ones say you have to have a minimum of 100 words or whatever it may be. So if you don't see that, you don't need to worry about it. The way these are graded, as soon as you post something to the board, you automatically get a P grade by the computer. Okay? So, but that may not be your final grade for the lesson because the boards get monitored. So if you went in here and you posted yesterday's baseball score, then the monitor, when they come through, look at it, they're going to take it down, give you an F, and you have to repeat it. So again, why not do it right the first time? So that's how discussion boards work. Okay, looks like somebody's asked a question, so let's take a look at that. And that's coming from Elizabeth. She's just letting me know that she started the webinar using a smartphone and switched to the tablet, and she had no issues with either one. So that's great. I just want you to know that prior experience, that sometimes the connectivity depends on your Wi-Fi connection as well. Sometimes people get thrown off. It creates issues. I'm just letting you know that can create an issue. If your service is great, then again, that's up to you. Okay. So thanks for letting us know about that. Okay, so that was, let's go back into the Intro to Business course. So we were talking about discussion boards, okay, and we did webinars already. Next, let's talk about the dates next to each one of your lessons. What are they? What do they mean? Okay, these are what we call study planner dates, all right? Now, these are just suggested, in quotes, suggested dates for these lessons to be done by. These are not, I repeat, not hard concrete deadlines. So if I don't do the webinar by May 31st of this year, nothing will happen. I won't get an F or a 0. Nothing happens there. These are just guidelines in order to meet your time constraints. Remember, we talked about those earlier. You have 1 year per semester or 6 or 8 years for your program. Those are your only 2 time constraints right here. The dates next to here are just suggested dates. They're just designed to keep you on track. Okay, so that's everything I wanted to show you in the Intro to Business course. All right, I want to skip down now to the math course. And 2 reasons for that. Number 1, math is one of the courses where you have access to our free tutoring service. So, and it's also one of the courses that students struggle in. All right, so let's take a look at how you access the free tutoring, which is called Smart Thinking. So you click on that link. Computer's going to do some gyrations here, do a system check, and then it'll take us to the Smart Thinking website. Notice it's listed as Penn Foster. Now, Smart Thinking is access to free online tutoring, although it's limited. So I want to caution you. You have access to up to 5 hours of online tutoring time. Okay? So, during a particular semester, you have 5 hours. Now, if you go over that, then you can purchase additional time if you would like. All right, but you have first 5 hours of every semester are free. If you want more, then you can purchase it from Smart Thinking. Now, what's Smart Thinking? Smart Thinking is access to subject experts. These folks are not Penn Foster instructors. They are subject experts. They either have a master's or a doctorate in whatever their area of expertise is. There are two ways to get help with Smart Thinking. You can do an online chat by the drop-in tutoring, or you can send in your questions offline through an email, and I'll respond usually within 24 hours. Okay? The two courses that you can get help with for Smart Thinking are math and English. You'll see other courses here, but we're not contracted with them for those. Just math and English only. Okay? So you get 5 hours free time per semester with the Smart Thinking. Again, I just clicked on the link for that. All right. Now, we also have videos, and the link hasn't been added here yet, but when we go into the community, I'm going to show you how to access the videos that we did for the math course. So I just want to make you aware of that while we're here. Also, while we're here, I want to give you access. This is how you access the proctor exam information. You notice the math course is the one and only course in this semester that has a proctored exam. So if we click on the Take Exam button under the Math Proctored Exam here, it'll give us access to the information about the proctored exam itself. Okay? It'll tell you, this is your exam, this is how it works. There is, to take the proctored exam remotely via the computer, I did forget to tell you this, there is a $10 fee to do that. So if you want to do that remotely via the computer, there is a $10 fee. The regular proctor paper exam there's no fee for that. Okay. So, but you'll see up in the right-hand corner some helpful hints and resources about proctored exams. So the first one is just more information that we already covered. Second one is an exam guide. This is where your hardware requirements are listed as far as the remote proctoring process are listed. The proctored exam booklet with the sample questions and answers. I highly recommend you check these out before you take or attempt any proctored exams. Okay, it gives you an idea, mainly because of the format. Like I mentioned earlier, these are mostly short answer and essay type questions. So short answer questions are questions that usually can be answered in maybe 3 or 4 sentences. Essay questions are obviously a lot more writing involved. You're probably looking at maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs for one of those. All right, this gives you some sample questions and sample answers. So I would suggest taking a look at this before you attempt any of your proctored exams. Now, this is where you access the form you need to get your proctor approved. Okay, so click on the proctor. The first time you're choosing one, you want the proctor acceptance form. And then down at the bottom, I have to click on open. And that'll give you access to the form. Again, you fill it out and send it back. And then your exam, your proctor will either get approved or rejected. Okay? And again, I told you what the requirements are. Now, once you have a proctor, you can keep the same proctor for as long as you need it. But maybe circumstances change. And maybe you move or they moved or something happens, they don't want to proctor for you anymore. Then you need to get another proctor. The second time you choose a proctor, you want to change your proctor form. You just click on the link for that. And then same thing. Download the form and fill it out and send it back. Okay, so that's how you access the proctor exam information. Okay, so that was under the Programming Courses tab that I clicked on to access the course material here. All right, so that's everything I wanted to show you. At this point, we're going to come back here later on and talk about the other resource links. Let's head back to the PowerPoint and finish that up. Okay, let's talk about retake exams. and our retake policies. So we have two different policies here at the school as far as retaking an exam. And the way you differentiate the policies is ask yourself, what kind of exam am I taking? If the exam is all multiple choice, so all the questions on that exam have to be multiple choice. Those are the typical exams, like the randomized exams I was telling you about earlier. You know, after every couple chapters in a book, you'll go and take a test. And those are all the multiple choice exams. So that's what I'm referring to here. So this policy states that you are eligible to retake any of these type of tests, whether you passed or failed on your first submission. And you can achieve up to 100% on the retest as opposed to just a passing grade. The higher of your two grades counts as your final grade for that particular lesson. Okay, so you cannot hurt yourself here. Even if you would manage to score lower on the second submission, you get the higher of the two grades. By the way, the retake exam is the exact same test. It's exactly the same. So obviously you want to keep your correct answers the same. You have to take the whole test again, not just the questions you missed, the whole thing again. So you want to keep your correct answers the same and change the ones you missed. Okay? So that being said, if you do that, the worst that you can do is get the exact same score if you follow that. Okay? Hopefully you'll get one or two or more answers right the second time, so you improve your grade. However, I must say that I've seen students, for whatever reason, change correct answers and get a lower grade. But even if you do that, you're still awarded the higher of the two grades. So to me, this is a no-brainer. You know, why wouldn't you retest? Okay. That being said, you do not have to retest. It's optional. If you're happy, say you got a 90, you're happy with that, after 30 days, that'll default as your final grade. Okay, so you don't have to retest if you don't want to. If you are going to retest, you must do it within 30 days of the initial attempt. So that's very important. You must retest within 30 days on this type of exam if you're going to retest. There are no exceptions to that. The system automatically locks you out. The take exam button will be grayed out. You will not be allowed to retake it. And there is nothing we can do about that. We can't wave a magic wand or twitch your nose or anything like that to make it go away. You have to do it within 30 days. All right, the other item here is there's no waiting period to retake. You can do it right away. I mean, my suggestion, you take a look at the ones you missed and go back and try to figure them out to get the right answer. Okay, so again, I just want to reiterate, and the policy for this is it's the exact same test. You must do it within 30 days to try to improve your grade. You get the higher of your two scores as your final grade. And it is optional. You do not have to retest. So that's on it has to be all multiple choice tests. The other policy pertains to everything else, what we call subjective exams, which to you would be anything that's not all multiple choice. Okay? And the policies are much different here. So this would be for the items like proctored exams, a final exam, a project, a writing assignment, English paper, something like that. Anything that's not all multiple choice. So the three policies here are much different. First of all, the only time you can retake one of these type tests is if you fail on the first attempt. If you pass, which means you get a score 70 or higher, you're not eligible to retake it. All right, so you can only retake if you fail. The highest grade you can get on the retest in this situation is 70%. It's designed to give you the maximum of a minimum passing grade. Because remember, if you passed, those folks didn't get a chance to retest. So it wouldn't be fair to them to give you 100 on a retest if you achieved that, and they weren't eligible to retest. So again, the highest grade on a retest is 70. And also, in this case, you can hurt yourself. The retake is your final grade no matter what. So if your grade is lower on the retest, that's your final grade. So again, the three differences are you can only retest if you fail. Highest grade achievable on the retest is 70, and the retest grade is the final grade for these type of tests no matter what. All right. Just a reminder, a grading scale, A is 90 to 100, B 80 to 89, C 70 to 79, and anything less than 70 is failing. Our contact information, again, toll-free within the U.S., 888-427-1000. We're available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Again, that's Eastern Time. So if you're on the West Coast, that would be 6 a.m. until 3 p.m. your time. So again, remember about the time difference, depending on where you live. Okay. Also, our mailing address, 925 Oak Street, Scranton, PA 18515. That was the same address I gave out earlier for your transcripts. So that's the our mailing address and our toll-free phone number. Okay, that brings us to our miscellaneous slide, so we're going to go ahead and do that now, taking to some of the other areas that you have access to. So first up is the Career Cruising site. So let's go in there and take a look at that and what that entails. We sign into Career Cruising. Okay, now Career Cruising is a career services site that you have access to from day one of your enrollment, which is great because prior to this, our other career services site, you didn't have access until you graduated. So for some students, they never graduated, they never had access. So two important items here I want to stress. First of all, this is a great, one of the best career services sites I've seen. So two areas I want to mention because we don't have a lot of time to go over everything. Under the Assessments tab feature, the Matchmaker in My Skills item here. If you click on the Start the Matchmaker, which I'm not going to do, but what it does, it's about a 40-question survey. And what it does is matches possible careers and majors, you know, what you would probably be good at by your personality. So, for example, maybe you like working with kids. Okay, so one of the things that's going to probably near the top of the list is early childhood education. Okay, teaching elementary school kids, that type of thing. You know, kind of matches that profile. So why am I mentioning this to you? Because a lot of students start out in one major, they get into it some part way, and they change their mind. It's not really what I thought it was going to be, and you know, they change paths, and that's fine. But this feature here will help you with that. Okay, there's no better example of this situation than my wife, because she grew up on a dairy farm. She graduated and got a degree in horticulture, but for the last 30 years she's been a mortgage banker. So why did I just tell you that? Because life has a way of throwing you curveballs. Okay, and I'm sure you probably know people that have started out and studied in one area, and then a job opportunity came up in another, that for whatever reason, maybe it was a better opportunity, more money, you know, better place to live, whatever it happens to be, they change courses. So that's the only reason I'm mentioning this, is be prepared to for anything, basically. So you never know when those type of things are going to occur. So this feature will help you with that. Also, under the Employment tab, thing I want to point out here is the Build My Resume feature. This is a great template for building your resume. I've seen a lot of these. This is one of the best that I've seen. because you have access to different templates, fonts. You can, use a little bit of your personality in building your resume. You should always have a current resume on file. Even if you're just starting out, you don't have any experience on the job, or always have a current resume. You never know when things are going to change. So be prepared. Just like the old Scouts motto, always be prepared. So always have a current resume on file. Then we have some other items to help you post-graduation with your interview skills, writing letters after interviews, that type of thing. So this is a great site to work with. So take advantage of it. All right, next up is I'm going to take you into our student community. So let's go in there and take a look at that. I showed you earlier when we were on the portal, it said about interacting with other students in your program. Well, once you sign into the community, this is what it looks like. Now I know most of you, some of you may not be, or some of you are more social than others, and I get that, and that's fine. I'm not a big social media person myself, but I do see the advantages to it. But I would definitely recommend you be a student community member. The reason being is you have access to a lot of information, and you get to control the interaction. So that's a great feature. I know a lot of you, especially that aren't as social as others, your privacy is important to you. But this way, as long as you sign up for the community, that gives you access. So why do you want access? Well, for example, if we go in and we click on academic groups, now you'll see it's differentiated between college, career school, and high school. But I'm just going to click on academic groups, the words, academic groups there. And then the next thing you're going to see is the different spaces that are available. I'm going to click on business. Okay. That's going to give us access to those math videos that I was referring to earlier. Okay. So you'll see the Math for Business Apps course here. We click on Learn More. We've gone through the math book, the chapter exercises. There's 22 chapters in the math book. We've gone through and done all the assigned homework problems for you, done a video of them, and taken you step by step through how to solve the problems. The practice quizzes, the drill problems, word problems, and the practice tests. Okay? So obviously you want to try to work the problems on your own. But if you struggle and you're not sure what to do, take a look at the videos. These are all YouTube videos, very easy to access. So, and again, if you look through here, you'll see all 22 chapters done for you. The great thing about this, you have access 24/7. So if you're studying at 2 in the morning, you can go in here and take a look at how to solve the math video, the math problem you're working on. Okay, so that was under the Math for Business Applications. We've also gone through for the financial accounting, because that's another course that a lot of students struggle on. And we not only done, because accounting is like learning a second language. And most business students, even accounting majors, struggle with accounting. So we go through here. We've done some webinars in the past on certain topics in financial accounting. The recordings are here. You can go in and watch them whenever you want. But we also done the videos for the exercises at the end of the chapters here. Now this course also, instead of having the exam as your first assessment, this course, the first assessment, you have to do a project. And one of the items here, after the third chapter, we've done some additional video instruction to help you with the project. Okay, so again, a lot of additional content being added to the courses to help yourself, to help you out. So why not take advantage, especially if you're struggling with a course. And this is one of the ways that we've done that. All right, so Let's go back. Now I'm going to click on the college. Okay. The great thing about this, you can click on whatever you want. You're not limited to whatever your major is. So maybe, let's see, who do we want to give some love to? Let's do the finance group. Click on the finance associate's degrees. You'll see some, well, it looks like we're redirecting here. So let's go back. Let's click on the bachelor's program, for example. So we'll come in here. You'll see all the recently asked questions that students have asked. Now, obviously, you can't come in here and ask exam questions, so that's not allowed. But like here, financial accounting project. People are coming in here asking questions. More than likely, they didn't take a look at that video, or they weren't aware that that video was there to help them. Okay? But that being said, you can come in here and answer students' questions, or you can get answers to questions that you might have. Okay? So that's the great thing about this. You can interact as little or as much as you like. It's a great place for self-help. One of the great features to use this for would be electives. Nothing wrong with coming in there and asking other students, you know, should I take music or literature? You know, what do you think? What was your experience with that? So nothing like asking somebody that's already been through it. And that's okay. You can do that. All right, so that was all under academic groups. Now under social forums, for those of you that are more social, if you want to come in and introduce yourself, you can do that. Share your experiences. There's motivation, etc. There's also student clubs and social groups. So, you know, we have like a night owl group, 20s club, book club, cooking club, photography club, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, you know, have at it. Also news and events, what's going on in the school or you know, outside of school. Some instructors have blogs. Under the jobs tab, obviously we have job listings, but there's also career services and student success center. We look at that real quickly. It'll give you access to some good content, especially we've done some webinars recently, also on some career topics and tips and techniques on interviewing, that kind of thing. So those are all under our community. We're also under social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and YouTube, as well as Instagram. So if you're on those, you can interact with us there as well. So that's under the community. All right, next up, we want to go to the bookstore. So let's go in there really quickly. Now, this is not about buying books. You don't buy your books from the bookstore. Your books are automatically sent to you. You don't need to go to the bookstore to buy books. But we do sell other merchandise like caps and gowns and bags and hats and t-shirts and hoodies and all that kind of stuff. A lot of different merchandise. Looks like they're having a discount offered at the moment. So if you're interested in any of that, you'll see all the different product categories, water bottles, all that kind of stuff, caps and gowns. If you're interested, it's here. That's the only purpose of me showing you that. And then lastly, our library. So let's go into the student library. So I'm going to go back to our record that we have set up. So the way you can access those places we just were, click on the community. The career services was the career cruising site. And then under other resources, if we click that, I think the bookstore is listed here. So that's how you can access the bookstore. Now the library there's a link here and there's also one up here. Doesn't matter which one you click on. It's going to bring you to this page. Again, I could spend a lot of time here, but we don't have it. I'm going to wrap this up here in a couple minutes. By the way, if you have any other questions, please type them in. I'm glad to answer them before we sign off here. So the library is another great place to go for information to help yourself out. Okay. The one feature I want to show you is under subject guides. Okay, either click on the link here or on the left on the panel there. And it's going to take you to the next page that you're going to see here in a moment. There's a huge business section. It's all differentiated by the different areas. You'll see the business section, whether it's accounting, finance, marketing, management, human resources. So let's click on, say, human resources, for example. It gives you access to, and we've already done the legwork for some of these sites. A lot of great sites here to help you out with these different topics. So if you're struggling with a course, don't forget about the library. It's a great place to come. You can use this for your own, non-academic purposes as well. So maybe you have an interest in landscaping, for example. If you click on that, it'll give you some great sites regarding landscaping. Or, maybe you need to help out your kids. There's a huge math section here. There's science and math. So again, you can use this as much as you want. It's part of your tuition. You don't pay any extra for it. There's no limit to how much you can use it. So why not take advantage of that? Okay, so that's everything on the portal. So we covered the whole portal. So let's go back to the slideshow and finish up here. All right, so we were in the community, the bookstore, the library, and career cruising. I want to put my email address up here. Again, it's robert.messina@pennfoster.edu. If anybody wants a copy of the slides that I used for the presentation, send me an email. I'll be glad to send the slides along. Also, I recorded this presentation, so if anybody wants a link to the recording, that'll be available here the next day or two. If you send me an email, I can send you a link to the recording. Okay, or if you have any questions down the road, doesn't necessarily have to be on the webinar. If you think of something after you sign off, always feel free to reach out. I'm always glad to hear from students. That's why we're here. Okay, now before I do sign off, I just want to cover one more slide because a lot of students think that you're in an online school, you're by yourself, you don't have a lot of places to go to access information. A lot of resources available to you. And I think we demonstrated through the webinar that you have a lot of access to information that you probably weren't aware of before the webinar. And those are the student community. I mean, we were just in there and I showed you all the great content that is listed there. The library, same thing. Just a lot of students forget about the library for some reason. So even though it's a virtual library, it's still access to the information. Smart Thinking, that was the online tutoring that I showed you on the math course, how to access that. Career Cruising, the career services site that we were in there. Don't forget about that, because after all, the whole reason for the education experience is to hopefully improve yourself, give you more opportunities down the road, better yourself both knowledge-wise, economically, take better care of yourself and or your family. Career Cruising will help you with that. YouTube is just a phenomenal site. I didn't talk a whole lot about that, but just really quickly, say you're struggling with like debits and credits in accounting. If you go to YouTube, you type in debits and credits, you will see and get access to a lot of different folks' video content of people explaining that concept to you. Same thing with math, you name it, across the board. YouTube is a phenomenal educational website. I know a lot of students, and myself included, think of it as, watching videos and music and, access to that information like that. And I love it for that myself, but it's a great educational website. I cannot recommend YouTube enough. It's just phenomenal. And then last but not least, the instructors here at the school, you can reach us via the phone, email, and or on the community. So those are the ways that you can interact with us. Again, we are here to help you. So don't hesitate to reach out for any assistance that you might need. Okay, let me put my email address back up here. Let me check to see any questions that have come in. Okay, we had a rather shy bunch today, but that's okay. No other questions that have come in, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and shut down the webinar. But before I do, I just want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for your attendance today. Hopefully you learned something. It's designed to get you more familiar with us, our policies, procedures, show you around a little bit, what to expect, where you can get help. So hopefully you gain some knowledge that you didn't have prior to the webinar. Okay. Also want to thank you for selecting Penn Foster to fulfill your educational needs. There's a lot of choices out there for you to do that, and we are proud that you chose us for us to fulfill that need for you. So we don't take that lightly. We're always appreciative of our students choosing us. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I look forward to interacting with you in the upcoming days, weeks, and months ahead. And for those mothers out there, I hope everybody enjoys a great and happy Mother's Day. And if not, hopefully you enjoy your weekend. All right, take care, everybody.